So, yeah, good evening. Thanks for having me. I have two microphones, this one, and normally I talk a lot with my hands, so I should not do that tonight. It's about antifragility. First question of me is, how many of you are familiar with antifragility? 4 hands, okay. And how many of you are currently involved in risk management? Nobody. Okay, because they are related. I will explain that later. And who is familiar with the beast in the background? Hydra, right. We'll also come back to that, because Hydra is also very anti-fragile. A little bit about myself. I'm a consultant, coach, trainer in the areas mentioned here. I'm based in the Netherlands, and I'm in Korea for 2 weeks, and tonight I'm here. I'm also involved in a couple of long-term research initiatives. Maybe interesting to mention the middle one. It's about when you introduce Agile or DevOps in a company, you will have a lot of discussion with corporate services like HR and control. Anyone familiar with that? A lot of discussions with financial control and business control? Yeah, right. What we are doing in that particular research is we want to bring those worlds closer together so that business control and financial control better understand what it's coming their way. But also the other way around, that Agile and people implementing Agile and DevOps environments, that they better understand what a controller needs to do his or her work. Before we talk about antifragility, and I already asked the question about risk and risk management, this is a report from PricewaterhouseCoopers, and those guys are smart, but when you read this report, this is a report that says it should cope with unknown risks. If you read these particular strategies, except the last one, all the strategies mentioned here are about known risks. So this is not about unknown risks, which actually means that risk management is risk theater, because you are only preparing for the risks you know, and not for the unknown risks. So that's actually what we could say about risk management is risk theater. And I didn't make up that myself. It was coined by this man, Nassim Nicholas Taleb, and he says, instead of risk management, you better become less fragile to risks. That's better. And he wrote this book, Antifragile. And if we enlarge it a little bit, you can see that antifragility is actually not about dealing with risks, but even benefiting from risks. That is actually what is antifragility about. So it's actually things that gain from disorder. The more disorder, the better, the stronger you become. That is antifragility. And when we talk about disorder, what do I mean? Well, all the things you have to deal with in your current life, like changes, like new requirements, like new business opportunities, and of course also users that are using your systems not in the intended way, but in another way. When we talk about anti-fragile, we could say, okay, that's clear, that's not fragile. But until 2012, we had only 2 words for something not fragile. And those words are robust and resilient. And since 2012, then the book Antifragility was published, we have a 3rd word, anti-fragile. Let me explain the difference between those 4 words. When we talk about something fragile, you could say, okay, it's like glass. It breaks very easily, and when you increase the stress, which is on the horizontal axis, and you really have an unexpected event, well, it breaks, just like glass. When you have something robust, you could say, well, maybe it's reinforced concrete. It will stay the same for a long time. But as soon as you increase the stress up till a certain level, it will also break. Then we have something resilient, and we talk a lot about resilience these days. It will also have a dip when you increase the stress, and after that it will come back to the level it was designed for, but it will never become better than it was designed for. And last but not least, we have antifragility, which is actually getting stronger and stronger, and it will also have a little dip when the unexpected event comes along, but after that it learns from it and it will become stronger. Now let me give you some general examples and IT examples for the 4 words. Like, this is fragile. Okay, that's obvious. Do you know what the best example of fragility is in IT? What is really super fragile in IT? What would that be? I don't hear the word yet. It's actually technical debt. Technical debt. That is actually hyper fragile in IT. And this is actually, some years ago I came across this particular graph, and it made actually for the first time visual what technical debt is. I mean, you are all familiar with technical debt, right? Right? Yeah? No? You don't? Oh, you do, okay. And what you see is on the lower line, that's actually the optimal cost of change. And the optimal cost of change is also rising, of course, because when software gets older, the cost of change will rise. I mean, when you do a change today, that change will cost more than a similar change a year ago or 2 years ago. So the cost of change will rise. But when it rises a lot faster than it should, then the difference is actually technical debt. And it especially becomes very dangerous as soon as it enters the hockey stick stage, when it goes vertical. And that is what happens in a certain situation, that the technical debt is accumulating and accumulating, and after that your software is beyond repair. And of course your customer responsiveness is going down. So that's actually the problem with technical debt. We'll come back to that later, because technical debt is one of the things that you should deal with as soon as possible, because that makes you very fragile. That was fragile. Then we have robust. This beast, they call it the beast from Obama. There seems to be another president in the White House right now, but I still kept Obama in the picture. And this vehicle is robust. I mean, of course, if you fire 2 rockets at it, then it eventually will break, but it's robust. In IT, it could be this little beast. Anyone familiar with this one? Linux, right? And I think all of you know that almost all servers, all mail servers, all Kubernetes clusters, all supercomputers, they all run Linux because it is so hyper stable. It's really robust. When we talk about resilient, anyone familiar with this beast? Phoenix, right. Phoenix rises from its own ashes, but it will not become a better bird. It will become the same bird after it dies. So that's resilience. And resilience in IT, this is the cockpit of an Airbus 380. It's actually a flying computer. If one hydraulic system fails, there's a backup hydraulic system. If both hydraulic systems fail, there's a vacuum alternative or an electrical alternative or whatever. It keeps flying. And then we go to antifragile, and we already heard the name of this beast, Hydra. And why is Hydra so antifragile? Because if you cut off one head of Hydra, it immediately grows back 2 heads. So with every single attack, it becomes twice as strong. So that is really anti-fragile. If you go to IT, then we have the Chaos Monkey. And the Chaos Monkey, who's familiar with that? Chaos Monkey? Some hands, 2, 3 hands, not that many. The Chaos Monkey, it's actually, it was invented by Netflix. And it is attacking your system between 9 o'clock in the morning and 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So triggering errors, triggering malfunctions in your system. in your production system when we talk about Netflix. And the engineers will fix it during office hours. And their incentive is that they will be called less during the evening or night or in the weekends, because all the malfunctions already popped up during office hours. Because the Chaos Monkey stops working at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. There were some other monkeys also, the latency monkey, which actually introduces artificial latency. And of course, again, if the system doesn't respond well, then the engineers have to fix that. The generator monkey, which is actually looking for unused cloud resources, and every unused cloud resource, it will switch off. And if you think, oh, that was not what I intended to be, then you have to let that know, because in 30 minutes, the generator monkey comes again to switch off unused resources. And then the best way to understand that the Chaos Monkey works is that they had to build a Chaos Gorilla, because they were 100%, they became 100% immune to the Chaos Monkey. The Chaos Monkey could not generate any error or any malfunction anymore that affected the systems of Netflix. So they introduced the Chaos Gorilla, and which actually triggers bigger malfunctions, more malfunctions at the same time, and then, well, then you see that the system will be affected again. They put it all together in a simian army, a monkey army, and you can download it from the GitHub and release it in your own environment if you like. Maybe first in the test environment. That about the 4 words. We also have layers. We already learned that one single aircraft is resilient. But the aircraft industry, the aviation industry, is actually anti-fragile, because it learns from every crash. Maybe you can remember that the Boeing 737 MAX went down in 2018 and 2019. And after that, all similar aircrafts worldwide were grounded until they were sure what the cause was. And after that, they released the aircrafts again. So the lower level is an aircraft that's resilient, and the upper level, that's the aviation industry, which is anti-fragile. So we could say, to become more anti-fragile, well, at least you could apply chaos engineering. That's, well, the most common example that you come up with when you talk about anti-fragility. But there's more to explore. Are you ready for some heavy math? It's 7:20 in the evening. Are you ready for some? No, it's actually quite simple, because what Taleb uses in his book is this kind of simple graphs. He says, okay, we have a variable, and that can increase or decrease, and that generates gain or pain. It's that simple. But it's not extremely simple, because it's not like this way. This is linear. This could, for instance, be your salary. The higher, the better, and below a certain point, it becomes really painful. But that is not what anti-fragility is about. Anti-fragility is about symmetry. And I will actually share 3 aspects of asymmetry with you, and the first one is non-linearity. And the definition that you can also find in the book is that he says anything that has more upside than downside from random events and shocks is anti-fragile, and the reverse is fragile. And to discover that, you have to check whether something is accelerating towards pain or accelerating towards gain. And then we have something non-linear. And then we are actually talking about this kind of graphs. If you decrease this variable, it only gains a little bit. If you increase this variable, it rushes towards pain. The other way around, this variable, if you increase this variable, and I will give you a lot of examples after this, if you increase this variable, it only generates a little bit of pain. But if you decrease the variable, it rushes towards gain. So what would this be? What would this variable be? Would this be something fragile or anti-fragile? This is fragile, right? Whatever happens, it rushes towards pain. And the other one, of course, is this one. Whatever happens with this variable, it will accelerate towards gain. But the point is, you see that blue dot. Maybe I'm at the blue dot, but maybe I'm also at the yellow dot. I'm not sure. And when I'm fragile, it's very important to know where I am. Because when I'm at the blue dot and I go to the right, or I'm at the yellow dot and I go to the right, it's a little bit of difference. At the right one, the anti-fragile one, it doesn't matter. So when I'm anti-fragile, I need less information because I always win. It's always gaining. One way to remember that, left one, the frown is actually fragile, right one, the smile is actually anti-fragile. Now let me give you an IT example. For instance, the number of deployments per month. Suppose you are working on a back office system that already exists for 20 years, you don't have to change it very often. So no deployments per month, and you are happy. But as soon as you start deploying changes to that particular back office system, then well, you go to the bottom, but you will also it will only generate a little bit of pain, and after that you actually go towards continuous integration and continuous deployment, and you as soon as you keep increasing the number of deployments, you will get happier and happier, and as soon as you reach a working pipeline, CI/CD pipeline, well, it doesn't matter anymore. Then you're really anti-fragile. Deploying 10 times a day or deploying for only 3 times a month, it doesn't matter anymore. So you could say that continuous deployment is anti-fragile. Another example, the number of tasks coordinated in a software project. Suppose, blue dot, you do not coordinate anything. Of course, it's chaos, it's pain. And as soon as you start to coordinate, you will become happier and happier. But we all know what happens with software projects. They get too large, there will be too much dependencies, there will be deadlines, etc. So in the end, you will go again to the bottom. It accelerates towards pain. So you could say software projects are fragile, and they are. Any questions so far? No? All right. That was actually all about the first point, the non-linearity part, because I already mentioned that I will mention 3 aspects of asymmetry. So the first one was non-linearity, and the second one is optionality. If you read this particular sentence, I think that most of you are thinking of something financial, right? This looks like it is about something financial. And of course, that could be the case, but financial options are usually expensive, but we also have a lot of non-financial options, and in most cases they are cheap or they are free, but we do not recognize them. For instance, this is an overview of the Unicorn Club. The companies that reached a worth of more than $1 billion in the stock exchange, and you see that it become more and more and more. And these were actually all the right options at the right in the right time. Were actually launched by the owners. That was actually an option they had. They could start a company. And it became a success, or maybe they could skip the option. And we also see that the time to unicorn valuation also gets shorter and shorter. The lines get steeper and steeper. You can see here, for instance, SpaceX in the middle. It took SpaceX about 6 or 7 years to become worth $1 billion. And at the left part, you see that little UFO. That's actually Magic Leap. It took Magic Leap only 7 months to become $1 billion. I have for you the first promotional video of Magic Leap. This is actually what they would like to achieve with their company. And now I have a little challenge because I have to bring my microphone to my Mac because we don't have sound on the screens. So I bring it to the Mac, and hopefully you will be able to hear the sound. There we go. Yeah, so that was their first promotional video, and this is actually what they want to achieve. You see all those kids, they do not wear goggles, they do not wear headsets. They look with their naked eye to what's happening actually over there. And they are actually talking about digital light fields. That's actually what they wanted to do. And up till now, they were not able to achieve this yet. And still they are consuming billions of dollars per year because a lot of people keep believing that this will be possible one day. In the meantime, they also have to earn money, so they switched actually to this kind of stuff that is also used in all kind of medical environments. They call it the most immersive enterprise AR device. It's actually transparent optics and high fidelity AR, so that you are able to operate with this kind of goggles. And when you think about these kind of options and these kinds of developments, you might think that evolution in IT is a little bit like what you see in the lower left corner. And that's not the case. What we actually see, both in evolution, but also in IT, but also in car technology, and also in phone technology, is actually what we see in the lower right corner. Which actually means that for a long time nothing happens, but actually stress, pressure is building up to the left, to the left, to the left, to the left, but nothing is happening until a certain point in time, and then we have a major shift towards the left or towards the right. That is actually what happened in the car technology, also in phone technology, and maybe also in AR technology. So we keep inventing and inventing and inventing. Nothing happens, nothing happens, nothing happens until a certain period in time. So it's good to keep experimenting. Who is familiar with the Phoenix project? Ah, a lot of hands. I love it. If you haven't read the Phoenix project, I can highly recommend this particular book. It's actually about the 3 ways. The first way is actually about system thinking, about flow. See your whole company as one system. See it as a flow from A to B, from development to operations. The second way is about feedback. A lot of feedback cycles should be built in. And the third way is actually about experimenting and learning. But, okay, we were talking about antifragility. And when you combine antifragility with experimenting, it could look a little bit like this. Because if I'm antifragile and I'm experimenting, then all my outliers will be positive because I'm antifragile. If I'm fragile, then that would be very dangerous because all my outliers are negative. So what I should do is that I should reduce my downside to be able to experiment. And if I talk about the downside, one of the things that I have to do is to get rid of technical debt. And in his book, Taleb calls it via negativa, which actually means that you do a lot of elimination, decreasing, reduction, displacement, detaching, discarding, because normally we add a lot of measures to make things work. What he actually says in via negativa, take things away, decrease it, cancel it, cut it, clear it, to make it more clean, to make it more flow, to make it more lean, so to say. And I think that Gene Kim one of the authors of the book, The Phoenix Project. I think that he coined the best definition of technical debt ever, because he said what technical debt is what you feel the next time you want to make a change. That is actually technical debt. So I have again this particular graph. Use it to explain technical debt to your colleagues, but also to your management. And why is it important to reduce technical debt? How to deal with technical debt? This 4-color backlog is from the book Project to Product. I will come back to that book later. And you can see that actually all the work that you are doing on a daily basis is actually consists of 4 flavors. The green one is actually deploying features. That's also what your customer wants. Red is resolving defects. That's also what your customer wants. And when you would only listen to your customer, you would only work on green and red. And if you work only on green and red, then you will see that the number of defects will grow and grow and grow. Because what you also need to do is working on blue and orange. And blue is reducing debt, reducing technical debt. And orange is to mitigate risks. And you can see that when you keep investing in orange and blue, then in the end, and this could be a timeline, in the end you will see that the number of defects goes down, and actually column 12 is a healthy balance of the four kinds of work. So a lot of features and a little bit of defects, but also keep investing in orange and blue. Is one of you able to estimate which column actually fits your balance in your current working life, in your current development environment? Would you say, okay, what really fits my environment is 7 or 10 or 3 or whatever? Which one? The? Orange. Which orange? Yeah. I mean, which column? That's actually my question. Sorry. Yeah. So which column fits with your current balance in your organization? Any? Yeah. I mean, if I've been talking about technical debt for a long time, and when I talked about technical debt, I think 8 or 9 years ago, a lot of companies were not aware of technical debt and the fact that they had to do something about it. And what's your column?
I see no column without green.
A column without green, yeah. We call that a refactoring sprint, right? There's a word for that. I mean, you're only working under the hood and you're actually not deploying anything that your customer can see. Yeah, and that's in a lot of that's what we see in a lot of cases. One of the ways to handle this is, for instance, to use a layered Kanban. And this one has 3 layers, but it could also be 4 layers. So, like, okay, we can do 20 points in a period. And we only reserve 12 for changes and 2 for maintenance and 6 for production defects. And then we should add a 4th layer if we would like to show it 4 colors. But I mean, Kanban layers is in most cases a very good way to remember whether you are working on the right colors. Another way to become more anti-fragile is to have more T-shaped profiles. And T-shaped profiles is a good idea for the people who have a T-shaped profile, of course, because then you have more options, and we are talking about optionality. But it's also a good idea for the employer who has you as a T-shaped profile, because you have more cross-pollination and more innovation, and it bridges silos, etc. So a T-shaped profile is a good idea. It's also good for a higher bus factor. Are you familiar with the bus factor? It's actually, it means how many people in a project can suddenly leave without affecting the project. And a bus factor of 1 is critical, which actually means that if one person leaves the project, your project is over. So a bus factor of at least 3 should be more healthy. And well, you know, bus factor is a bit, it's about people being hit by a bus at the same time. I mean, that's actually what we're talking about. So, but okay, it's a bus factor. What we also would like to do is to have more options, is to retain or ensure redundancy. If you only always sleep on your left side, this would be enough for your mattress, right? But it is 0 redundancy. If only a small thing happens, you will not sleep well anymore. So you want more options. You want a complete 100% mattress. Another one is observability. And observability, I think that most of you are familiar with that. I mean, monitoring is for the known unknowns, and observability is for the unknown unknowns. And that's actually what we are interested in when we talk about antifragility. And this is also something that Taleb wrote about. He wrote many books, and this is actually his second book. This is The Black Swan, about black swans, things that happen, you cannot predict them, and you cannot handle them, but you can become more anti-fragile to make sure that you can survive black swans. What certainly is not a good idea for optionality is vendor lock-in. And yeah, you could of course choose the left one. It's actually an ERP strategy, enterprise resource planning strategy, or you choose for a best of breed strategy. How many of you work in a company with an ERP strategy? Not that many. How many work in a company with a best of breed strategy? Oh, not that many. Okay, it should be one or the other. Maybe I explain it. ERP is actually that you say, okay, it's all my software is from the same vendor, and best of breed means that you buy the software from that particular software from the best vendor in that area. And you see a lot of pluses actually at the right side. But interesting is the integration criterion with a question mark behind it, because on the left side it's a plus for ERP strategy, and in most cases that's not the case. I mean, if you look at a ERP software package, in most cases integration is not as good as they promised. And on the other hand, if you look at standalone software, then integration is crucial. Because if you are not able to integrate well with software from other vendors, that's actually a knockout criterion. That means that you are not in the selection anymore. So actually, you could say that the integration on the right side is also a plus. So we have a lot of pluses on the right side and a lot of, only a few, maybe only 1 or 2 at the left side, and for the rest it's actually disadvantages at the left side. So you could say ERP systems are fragilizers. So that's actually all about optionality. Any questions so far? Yeah. With the microphone.
Thank you. So could that potentially be an argument for, like, in terms of infrastructure as code platforms? Like, could that be an argument for Terraform as opposed to AWS Cloud Development Kit?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think you should keep more options than one.
Right.
I mean, if there is a problem, not only technically but also financially. I mean, if you are completely dedicated to AWS.
Yeah.
And they are increasing their prices, what they actually do. Then you would also like that you would have more options.
Okay.
Yeah, but also, yeah, technically, it would be wise to switch between multiple options. Yeah, yeah.
Did you have a question?
Other questions? Yeah.
Yep. For the best and breed strategy, you have vendor focus. What do you mean vendor focus? Is it focus? You get more focus from the vendor?
Yeah, more focus of the vendor on that particular kind of software. I mean, if you, for instance, if you buy HR software, you buy it best of breed. You buy it from that particular HR vendor, and the guy or the girl has total focus on HR. And on the left hand, it's only one of the modules that they have in their ERP package. That's actually what it's meant by vendor focus. Yeah.
No. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Yeah.
Thanks.
Taking best of breed strategy could cause maybe some higher price ranges, right? So you pay like for not one ERP like company, but you pay like maybe if you have like 5 or 6 or maybe 10 modules, you want to get like best of each.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Of course, their licensing model and their pricing model also, of course, they want you to choose for the left side, but that's also to camouflage the disadvantages. But yeah, that's something you have to take into account. Absolutely. Yeah.
thank you.
Okay. I move on, and on the end we also have the possibility to ask questions. I have to take care of the time. The last aspect of anti-fragility that I would like to of symmetry, sorry, that I would like to share with you is transferring fragility, and that is actually, if you read the definition, if one party has the downside and another party has the upside, fragility is being transferred from one party to another. And the reverse is actually skin in the game, which means that you have something to lose. Let me start to explain this with a very old example. In Mesopotamia, 3,700 years ago, they had some problems with unstable houses. In those times you had King Hammurabi, and he had 282 laws carved in stone. And especially Code 229 is very relevant here, because he said, if a builder builds a house and the house collapses and causes the death of the owner of the house, the builder shall be put to death. And from that moment on, there were the houses actually became stable, because you had something to lose. You had skin in the building game. You had to make sure that the house was stable, otherwise you would die, right? We talk about anti-fragility, so we are actually looking for the situations where that skin in the game is missing, and that's missing, of course, in silos. And when we talk about silos, we talk about a dev silo and a ops silo, because when you live in a silo as a developer or as a ops guy, as a developer you don't have skin in the ops game, and as ops you don't have skin in the dev game. That is why DevOps works so well, because what I develop in the morning, I will maintain in the afternoon, so I have skin in the ops game, and the other way around. And so you could say silos are fragilizers, and there is another book that Taleb wrote about. This is not actually called Skin in the Game. The whole book is about this concept. It's a very powerful concept. Another situation where it's missing is actually when you are dealing with projects, because in projects you are in a project as a project manager, you are actually taking the benefits of a project with the initial costs, and you don't care in most cases about the operational costs. And of course they are very important. So you could say projects are fragilizers. And that's the second time that particular book appears, Project to Product. We'll come back to that at the end of the presentation. it actually says you better should apply product thinking instead of project thinking. Come back to that later. And the last one is actually where skin in the game is missing is in the operational game when we talk about command and control. And that is actually very well explained in this particular book, where you can see that command and control actually leads to a low-speed, low-quality organization. What you would like to do is to bring, to push authority to the information level instead of information to the authority level. Because that is what we in most cases do. Information goes up to management, they take a decision, it is communicated down to the information level, and then they execute the decision. And what you would like to do is to push that authority, that decision making to the information level. And also you have to make sure that people are technically competent, that they have organizational clarity, and that they understand priorities. But if you do that, then a lot of decisions could be made on a lower level in the organization. They will be better and it will be faster. So you could say command and control is also fragilizing. Maybe you are familiar with this particular table from SAFE, from Scaled Agile. And they published this particular table, and you can really look at the frequency there in the bottom, the frequency of a decision and the time criticality of a decision and the economies of scale of a decision. And then you can really calculate whether a decision should be centralized or decentralized. And I think in most cases, I think maybe more than 90% of the cases, this really works. So this actually all boils down to this particular picture. Are you or are you not in the same team? That's actually skin in the game. So we could say to become more anti-fragile, we could apply these kind of measures. To discover more ways of getting anti-fragile, we could compare it to inoculation, because anti-fragility, like the chaos monkey, that has a little similarity with inoculation, because there's also there's actually a biological word for anti-fragility, and that's hormesis, and that's actually related to inoculation. So if you apply a small amount of stress on a body, like a vaccine, then it will strengthen the body. And if you would apply a large amount of stress, then the body would die or get really ill. So this is actually the biological version. And when we think about that kind of examples, like vaccination, inoculation, you could also think about canary releases, which is actually only allowing a low dose of users in the system. Only a low dose, and just check what happens then. A/B testing is also something that you could use. Only a little change in the system and just check how it works out. So also reducing the risk by a low doses. When we turn back to the books of Taleb, I come back to skin in the game again, because what you see at the bottom of the book, at the cover, is a barbell. And he actually says, in this kind of situation, you should apply a barbell strategy, which actually means that the vast majority of resources, maybe 80 or 90% of your resources, your investments, your people, you should dedicate it to safe, low-risk, predictable initiatives on the left side, the bigger part of the barbell. And you should invest a small portion, maybe 10 or 20%, into highly speculative, high-risk endeavors with maybe enormous potential. That is the right side, the little part of the barbell. And you should avoid the middle. So the moderate return, moderate risk initiatives. And this is actually a very good way to make sure that your company thrives and becomes successful. Because you have the left part for the safety and the right part for the risks, and in the middle there's nothing. So you are very well aware of the things that are on the left side or on the right side. What also could help is microservices. It's actually the reduction of big decisions into smaller, frequent decisions. And if some of those decisions, some of those microservices turns out to be downside, you just rewrite it. And you don't have to rewrite your whole empire. And actually the previous 3 slides, they reveal some very deep truth about software, and that is that software has diseconomies of scale. I mean, milk is cheaper in bigger cartons, and for software is cheaper in lots of small cartons. So keep it small. Small cartons of software, they reduce risk. Another one is autoscaling. Autoscaling is actually automated anti-fragility, because it reacts to your chaos engineering. So you could use it as a very affordable way of making sure that it responds to change in a good way. When we talk about MTBF and MTTR, I think that most of you are familiar with that, the mean time between failure and the mean time to repair. What do you think? What is anti-fragile? Is MTBF anti-fragile? Could you say, would you like a longer MTBF, or would you like a shorter MTTR? Or is it the same? What would you think? Both? MTTR. Yeah, right. Yeah. When you look at this from an anti-fragile standpoint, you should say, okay, MTTR is the most important, because John Allspaw, that's a guru in this area, he said actually you only have to focus on MTBF in 2 cases, and that's with space hardware, because as soon as you launch something in space, it is very difficult to send engineers. And the other example is if you have an embedded medical device in your chest, you also want to have a very long MTBF. In all other cases, it is MTTR. You should actually focus on a shorter MTTR. Because anti-fragility assumes that failure will happen, and anti-fragile systems, they break a little all the time. They should break a little all the time, because that's the reason why they become stronger. So that brings us here, and we almost filled the whole iceberg. Any questions so far? No? Then we already noticed this one via negativa. You will remember this slide, I think, and it was actually about debt, technical debt. But there is also another kind of debt, and that is organizational debt. And Steve Blank actually coined this particular quote. He says, organizational debt is like technical debt, but worse. It is actually about the following, where you can say what is actually organizational debt is where your hierarchy is actually not supporting your operational work. So the silos are actually not cooperating in getting the work done in your organization. And that's what we see in a lot of organizations. And actually what we are talking about right now is what they call Conway's Law. Anyone familiar with Conway's Law? No hands, no. Conway's Law actually says that any organization that designs a system will inevitably produce a design whose structure is a copy of the organization's communication structure. In other words, your systems look like the communication structure in your organization. So if you have a complex organization, you will have complex systems. And Conway's Law was published in 1967, and it is still unbreakable. This is the way it works. But there's good news, because you can not only be blocked by Conway's law, you can also leverage Conway's law. And that means that if you know that, okay, so I have to make my organization more simple to make sure that I will be able to make more simple software, which combines, which actually matches with the simple organization. And what we also should do is that we finally should end Taylor's area, because we are still, in many organizations, we are still working according to the 5 principles of scientific management, which are listed here. And Frederick Taylor died in 1915. He published this in 1911, so this is more than 115 years old. But if you read this, then think, well, part of this, what I read is still in my company right now. Management decides and workers actually execute. But this was actually meant for the assembly line and not for making software. So if this is what your organization still looks like, it is actually also very fragile because of this, because organizational debt is fragilizing. Then, I already mentioned this book twice. This is the 3rd time, Project to Product. That has a reason, because if there is one thing, of course the books of Taleb are also important, but this is also a very useful book if you would like to restructure your organization, to make your organization more anti-fragile. Project to Product from Mick Kirsten is actually changing your organization in all the aspects that are mentioned here. And the first one is the funding of product value streams, which actually means that all the traditional budgets and amounts of money in your organization, they go away and they are replaced by one single point where you can find the funding, and that is at the beginning of a value stream, where the product owner resides for that particular value stream. So if you switch to value stream funding, your organization also will align with the value stream. And also, we also already mentioned this, that it is not a good idea to focus only on the project. You also have to focus on what is coming after that. So you also have to take into account the whole life cycle of the project. So that includes the health through end of life. Maybe 20 years to go before the software is end of life. And last but not least, it's actually about talking about teams. If you have a project-oriented management, it will actually mean that you have a project and then you have to find people to work in that project. And you have a frequent churn, because every time a project ends and a new project starts, you have to switch people from one project to another. If you have a project-oriented management, you bring work to the people. And that is actually a team which is stable and remains stable for a number of years, and you just bring work to the people, bring work to the product owner. And you don't have that frequent churn anymore. So you could say that for via negativa, the organizational debt, these are 3 quotes from the book. I don't have time to explain that right now, but you can, in most cases, say that your organization is not ready for digital transformation because of this, because of organizational debt. So the issues that you have in your organization are in most cases not technical. Technically, it can be solved, but organizationally, it remains a problem. So that's the reason that I put it in the bottom in the largest type font, reducing organizational debt. Any questions so far? Yeah.
Yes. Did you know there's a K-pop song called Antifragile?
I have a reminder in Google search related to anti-fragile, and I know that a lot of hits are related to music.
Thank you. So my real question is actually positivity bias, right? I get the feeling in your presentation you use a lot of humor because inherently there's a bit of negativity around, how do we avoid failure? So I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
I think that's right. Anti-fragility, maybe the term is a little bit negative, but it's actually a very positive way of looking at your environment, looking at the world, and really introducing solutions that you have never thought of before. I think in most organizations that are actually changing towards a more anti-fragile approach, you could say that it's a lot of fun working in those kind of organizations. Absolutely. Any other questions so far? Yeah. High-speed microphone.
Hey, I appreciate the talk so far. I had a quick question. It was a while back when you were talking about silos and what was the other one? ERP systems. So I was just thinking that you defined a silo as fragile, but then an ERP system also as fragile. And I know that silos are sort of internal systems and ERPs are something you interact with externally. But wouldn't an internal system be less siloed? Wouldn't an ERP system be less siloed as they do have a more wider breadth of reach?
Actually, it's two aspects of anti-fragility, so they are not that related in the way you name it. No. It's two different aspects because we had non-linearity and we had optionality and we had skin in the game. Actually, those three kinds of anti-fragility. So it's in two different aspects. But of course, if you talk about ERP systems from a external vendor, that external vendor, of course, is also a kind of a silo, and with an own agenda, and that's not your agenda. So that's also fragilizing. The fact that you are dependent on a vendor. But of course, you cannot build everything yourself. But I mean, a lot of organizations who, for instance, say, okay, for us it's Microsoft only, actually, unless Microsoft is not providing what we want. Then you are actually navigating to a fragile organization because all the software is from that particular vendor. And for instance, if you look at Teams, I mean, a lot of organizations use Teams from the very beginning, but then it was a really bad product if you compare it with other ways of communicating with your colleagues and external colleagues, and it became better and better over time. But yeah, a lot of organizations, okay, yeah, that's the fact because everything we use is from that particular vendor. So ERP systems, mean actually that your software will not be 100% what you would like it to be because the vendor also made a lot of decisions that might not match what you need in your organization. Is that an answer to your question? More or less.
More or less. Yeah. So I don't know if I'm wrong. I could be wrong, but is a silo something you think of internally as an organization?
Yeah, a silo is actually, you could think, okay, dev is a silo, ops is a silo, but HR is also a silo, finance is also a silo. So all the departments of your organization, when we talk about silos in general, we talk about all the departments in your organization that have reinforced silos and don't care about the other silos in our organization. That's actually...
Yeah, that clear.
That was actually your question.
Because I just was... maybe I was thinking too abstractly.
Okay, yeah, okay. Any other question? Okay. I have only 3 slides left. my advice to you is don't be a fragilista. That is actually a word also, of course, introduced by Taleb. And this example, for instance, a CI/CD engineer who tries to prevent small-scale failures, who tries to make the pipeline work as good as possible. That could mean that it would lead to a more massive catastrophic failure down the line, because you suppress all the little failures. You want to expose them. You want to make sure that everybody knows about those failures. So spend your error budget, ship high risk, high reward features, upgrade your old infrastructure, and organize disaster recovery drills just to become stronger, but also to make sure that all those little failures show up and that you know what is actually the status of your systems in your organization. So again, you could read the Black Swan again to underpin actually what this says. And he's actually said avoiding black swans is impossible, but you can build a system that survives them because you became more and more anti-fragile. I think I spent an hour talking, so I had an hour. So are there any other questions so far? Yep. High-speed microphone again.
Okay. So thank you for the speech. So my question was related to AI. So at the time of AI, I would say code is becoming cheap, and according to what the points you mentioned during the presentation, I feel like AI could help an organization, let's say, do all the different points faster. But the only point where I would say using AI, using AI a lot in a company would be bad was at the point of the technical depths, using a lot of AI to, let's say, write code faster, to build faster is going to create a lot of technical debt. So I was really curious to understand your points about say the use, being an AI first company, using a lot of AI tools to build the code. How does it stand with being anti-fragile and building anti-fragile software?
And then especially technical debt, or in general?
Let's say general.
Yeah, because related to technical debt, I don't have enough data yet to know what AI does with technical debt. Maybe you are able to clean it up in a very short period of time, but on the other hand, it could also accelerate all the flaws that are in the technical debt part. I don't know. I don't have the data on that yet. And when I compare AI and anti-fragility, I think you also mentioned that all the development will go faster. But that could also mean that it is quite dangerous, because I already explained that when I'm fragile or even a little fragile, then the accelerations towards pain that could be more accelerated due to AI. But again, I don't have the data yet to answer that properly. Any other questions?
Yeah, building on his question, in the age of AI, we have a lot more fragile systems. Like AWS went down because of too much agentic engineering. Lovable had the leaks. OpenClaw had the leaks of credentials. Anthropic had the leak of their front-end engineering code. So we're seeing a spread of a lot more fragile systems. And I noticed that your presentation mentioned almost nothing about agentic engineering or coding with AI. And my question is, how can we as engineers promote more of this anti-fragile engineering where AI engineering is pushed onto us?
I think I should add a few slides related to I think especially agentic AI. But I have to give the same answer. I don't have enough data about it yet. I'm looking into that. As I mentioned at the beginning, I'm into a couple of long-term research initiatives, and they are actually agentic AI is also in there, but still not enough information yet. So I think it will be in my future presentations, but not at this point in time.
Thank you so much for a clear answer.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other ways? Okay.
Very quick one, because I know you're out of time. With regards to organizational fragility and anti-fragility, I know you don't have time to go through a bunch of examples, but can you recommend any references for reading up on organizational stuff, including outside of IT?
How an organization should be run in an anti-fragile way. Well, for instance, Google has been an example in the past, turning their organization, actually tilting their organization, and aligning it with their value streams. And I don't remember how long ago that is actually, but I think almost all organizations will have they will arrive at the point in time that they will grow and grow and grow, and as soon as they grow large enough, they will invent silos, and there will be organizational depth. But that's actually why I mentioned value streams many times, because value streams are actually the way of making sure that your organization aligns with your value again. So I think every organization that is implementing value streams in a professional way, those organizations, you could take them as an example, I think. And I think the most, I have been a lot in banking and insurance companies, and they struggle a lot with that, because those organizations, they are old, they are large, and silos, they are made of reinforced concrete, so it's very difficult to arrange value streams through such an organization. But I think that's the way to look for examples. How are organizations actually applying value streams in their organization, and are they successful in doing that? Because sometimes you have a lot of people in an organization who really know what they should do to improve it, and there is no way to make the organization actually do that, because of management, because of politics, because of whatever. Yeah. Another question.
Yeah, thanks. You know, traditional companies are really risk averse. They really hate bugs. They really, because they if there is a bug, maybe it can be the production can break. The engineer will spend time to fix the bug instead of building. So they're losing money. When I try to explain, agility to companies in one sentence, I can say either you lose money now, a bit of money now, or a lot later. But if you have a few sentences to have the buy-in to sell anti-fragile philosophy to this kind of company, how will you do it?
Well, I think you could use one of the examples from my presentation. I mean, at least there should be 1 or 2 or 3 examples that also resonate with the people or the management you are talking to. It's true. It's counterintuitive to be anti-fragile, to expose your failures, to introduce a chaos monkey that is actually attacking your systems. But because of that, when we had those worldwide problems with what was it, Cloudflare, CrowdStrike, then we noticed that the Netflix actually suffered not that much from those worldwide problems because of the fact that they are that anti-fragile. You can also look it up in Netflix statistics how they deal with that. Yeah, I think that's it's counterintuitive, and just find one or more examples that resonate with your audience, and I think that's maybe the best starting point to get the discussion started. Yeah.
Yeah. Other questions? Yeah. Okay. Decent.
Could you give an example of, let's say, of a core, this is a little bit more technical, like a core service like BGP, or as you said with CoreWeave, like a kernel firewall, about how to make such systems in a distributed system more anti-fragile?
No, I'm not that much into those technical details to give that kind of examples. No. But if you look at the internet and search for anti-fragile examples, also the technical ones, you will find a lot of information. And I will also, if you would like more information, this antifragility.works also contains a lot of extra information.
So to answer that question, you could introduce anomaly detection with dynamic firewall rules with software-defined networking. You could do something like that.
Where was the question coming from?
I was answering his question. Yeah. Yeah.
Could you say that again? Sorry.
So in the past, I've done similar things, not with networking specifically, but you can introduce anomaly detection where you do baselines. Historically, what's worked for me is doing by hour of day of week with detection of holidays, because that's a problem. And then whenever you have that anomalous behavior compared to your baseline, you introduce new rules and then you monitor. So we did that with our monitoring and alerting systems at a previous company. And so our system became more robust with fewer false positives. And when you have fewer false positives, people respond to the alerts better, so our mean time to resolution went down. Yeah, you need some kind of anomaly detection for however you define an anomaly in your domain, but as long as you can establish a baseline and do anomaly detection, then you can do your kind of automated reinforcement.
And were those anomalies exposed broadly in the organization?
Yeah, they were in front of our network operations center.
Okay.
So it was like,
and also to management?
Effectively, yes.
Yeah. Because you actually should be proud of the fact that you found the anomalies.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And that's also counterintuitive. I'm proud of the things that went wrong. Yeah, that's the point actually. Yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah. My question is do you think that anti-fragility is for everyone? Meaning, intuitively, I think that it requires a lot of effort. It seems to me that you need a lot of energy to grow two heads once you lose one. So do you think that this is for everyone? Or if not, how would you measure if you actually need to spend the resources to be so anti-fragile, or maybe you just want to stay stable?
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, also introducing the question, how anti-fragile should you be? And how much money should I invest in getting more anti-fragile? And also how many resources? But I think in current times you don't have a choice because of the cyber threats, etc., and the changing world. I think you have to become more anti-fragile because you cannot. It is impossible. Let me put it another way. There's a lot of money already going to risks and risk management, and you should maybe use part of that money to reallocate it to getting more anti-fragile, because that's a better way to prepare your organization for future risks. Yeah.
Thank you.
Do we have more questions? Is the presentation over, Jan?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Do we have extra questions? Someone behind the pillar? I'm not seeing.
Yeah, behind the pillar. Yeah.
Yeah, no. No. All right. That was the last slide?
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Big round of applause for Jan. Thank you so much.